The dawn was cold, and the wind moved across the empty valley like a whisper. On a high cliff stood a lone figure. His clothes were old, his sword was simple, and his eyes looked far away. This was Miyamoto Musashi. People called him a legend, a master, a warrior who never lost. But on this morning, he did not look like a hero. He looked tired, deep, heavy, tired, the kind that burns inside the bones. The narrator's voice enters calmly. He had fought more battles than most men could count. He had walked across mountains, deserts, and dark forests. He had trained for hours every day. He had lived many lives. But even Musashi was still human, and humans get tired. Even great ones. Musashi looked at the rising sun. It felt heavier than usual, almost like the sky itself was pressing on his shoulders. His breath was uneven. His hands were tight. He knew something inside him was breaking. Strength was leaving him slowly, day after day. And for the first time in his life, he was afraid. Not afraid of an enemy. Not afraid of death. He was afraid of losing his energy. A life without strength was a life without purpose. A sword without a sharp edge was just metal. And a warrior without energy was nothing but a tired traveler. He closed his eyes and whispered, "Is this the end of my road?" He did not know that this day would change everything. He did not know that he was close to discovering a secret that would rewrite his life forever. The story cuts to the past. There was a time when Musashi felt unstoppable. He could train until midnight and wake before sunrise. He could fight 10 men and not lose breath. He could walk miles without rest. People around him believed he had some special strength inside him, but they were wrong. He was just like everyone else. He only pushed himself harder. But when a man lives on pure force, pure effort, pure fight, his body will one day stop listening. Musashi's long journey continued. He traveled alone through silent paths, feeling his energy falling like sand slipping from his hands. He ate little. He slept lightly. And this slow loss of strength became a shadow that followed him everywhere. One night, the shadow almost took him. He walked through a dense forest, the kind where the moon barely touched the ground. His steps were slow, his shoulders heavy. He felt the world spinning around him. His body told him to stop. His mind told him to sit. But his pride said, "A warrior keeps moving." And then his body fell first. He collapsed on the forest floor. Leaves touched his face. His breath was sharp and painful. For the first time, Musashi felt helpless, completely helpless. He did not know if he would stand again. Minutes passed, maybe hours. The wind grew colder. But then, a light appeared. Not a bright light, not a fire. Just a soft, warm glow gleamed through the trees, a little far away. Musashi opened his eyes and forced himself to crawl toward it. His legs shook. His hands scratched the ground. Every move hurt, but the light kept pulling him. Finally, he reached a small wooden house, almost hidden inside the forest. It was simple, silent. A single lantern hung beside the door. Musashi pushed the door slowly and entered. Inside, there was nothing but a small table, a small fire, and an old woman sitting quietly. Her face was calm, and her eyes were gentle, but sharp like she could see through any lie. She looked at Musashi and said, "You look like a man who has been fighting the wrong enemy." Musashi tried to speak, but his voice cracked. I am only tired." The old woman shook her head. "No, you are empty. There is a difference." She offered him a bowl of warm tea. Musashi hesitated, but his body needed it. He drank slowly. The warmth spread through his chest. Something inside him relaxed. Then the woman leaned close and whispered 3 words. 3 simple words that would one day become known as Musashi's secret method. But the narrator does not reveal the words yet. Those words cut deeper than any sword. The narrator says, "They did not heal him in a moment, but they started to change. A slow return, a new path. Musashi did not understand the meaning at first. They sounded too simple, too quiet, too small to be important. But something inside him felt different. A door opened somewhere in his mind. The woman told him, "If you follow these 3 steps every day, you will stop feeling tired. You will grow a new kind of energy. Not the energy of youth, not the energy of muscle, but the energy of direction, breath, and presence." Musashi stayed in that house for 1 night. Only one. But what he learned there stayed inside him forever. The next morning, when he stepped out of the house, something felt new. The wind touched him gently. His breath flowed more freely. His shoulders felt lighter. The world did not feel heavy anymore. He began to walk, slowly at first, then faster. Soon he crossed the forest without stopping. Soon he climbed hills without losing breath. Soon he fought battles without feeling drained. People around him thought he had discovered some magic, but it was not magic. It was not a secret given only to warriors. It was something anyone could learn, but nobody knew the 3 words. Nobody. Until today. Because today, the narrator promises to reveal them, but not yet. Before we understand the old woman's words, the narrator says, we must first understand the steps that led Musashi back to his strength. The camera returns to Musashi standing on the cliff. He opens his eyes. They are sharp now. Calm. Steady. The narrator continues. He was tired once, but he never stayed tired. And the reason is hidden in the lessons you will learn now, step by step. The morning after meeting the old woman, Musashi walked through the forest with a different feeling inside him. His body was still weak. Yes, his legs still felt heavy. But something was new, something quiet, something steady. It was his breath. He noticed it while walking. For the first time in many months, his breath did not fight him. It moved smoothly, like water sliding down a calm river. The narrator speaks softly. He remembered the woman's first instruction, the first part of the secret method. It was not strength. It was not food. It was not sleep. It was something much simpler. Something everyone has, but almost everyone forgets. She had told him the first step, breathe like a river. At first, Musashi did not understand. A river is not loud. It is not fast. It is not forced. It does not stop. It simply flows, calm, constant, peaceful, and yet strong enough to cut mountains. That was the first lesson. The old woman had explained it much earlier, before he left her house. She sat beside a small fire and said, your breath is your true energy. When your breath is broken, you break. When your breath flows, you rise. She guided Musashi to sit on the floor. She asked him to place a hand on his stomach, not his chest. Then she said, inhale like the river arrives, slow and sure. Exhale like the river leaves, long and soft. Musashi tried it. At first, it felt strange. His chest wanted to rise fast. His mind wanted to rush. His muscles wanted to tighten. But the woman shook her head and said, let go. Do not force. Do not push. Let the breath come to you. Slowly, Musashi relaxed. His shoulders dropped. His neck loosened. His face softened. And then something changed. He felt his breath deep inside. His belly warm, heavy, calm, like a river moving through him. This was the moment he began to understand. Now, walking through the forest the next day, he practiced the same breathing. He took 4 slow steps while inhaling and 6 slow steps while exhaling. It felt natural, simple, almost too easy, but with every breath, he felt a small spark of energy return. The narrator explains, he did not know this yet, but he was rebuilding his inner battery. Breath is the body's first fuel, and Musashi had never used it properly before. As he walked, he remembered her words. When you breathe fast, you tell your body there is danger. When you breathe slow, you tell it to heal. In that moment, a memory came to Musashi past battle where he almost fell. He had been younger, stronger, but during the fight, his breath had become wild and sharp. That sharp breath exhausted him faster than the sword. He now understood why. Breath controls fatigue. Breath controls power. Breath controls the mind. He continued practicing the river breath as he walked deeper into the woods. The wind brushed the trees gently. Birds called in the distance. The forest floor was soft under his feet. Every few minutes, Musashi checked his breath again. Inhale. 4 steps. Exhale. 6 steps. Flow, flow, flow. Time passed. His tiredness did not grow. In fact, it began to fade. He reached a small hill. Normally, such a climb would force him to rest. But now, placed his hand on his stomach and kept breathing like the old woman taught him. He climbed the hill without stopping. At the top, he looked out across the valley. His hair moved in the wind. His breath was strong and calm. He felt a confidence he had not felt in months. "It is working," he whispered. The narrator continues. But the first lesson was not simply about breathing. It was about control, about learning to guide the body, not fight it. Musashi was finally learning to listen. A moment later, he heard the old woman's voice echo in his memory. "The world pushes you. Life pulls you. But your breath brings you back to yourself. Remember this." As the sun rose higher, Musashi walked toward a river flowing at the edge of the forest. When he reached the water, he knelt and watched the current. It moved without rushing. It moved without stopping, just flowing with ease. He realized why she chose this image. A river never gets tired of flowing. It simply follows its path. It does not hurry. It does not freeze. It does not stress. It just moves. Musashi closed his eyes and matched his breath to the river. In, out, in, out. He felt his heartbeat slow. He felt his thoughts settle. He felt his body returning to life. A few hours passed, but he did not feel tired. Instead, he felt clearer, lighter, almost new. The narrator says it was only the first lesson, but this lesson alone changed everything. Breath became his anchor, his guide, his shield. Later that day, Musashi met a group of travelers on the road. They looked at him with surprise. His face was calm, bright, alive. One of the travelers whispered, "This man looks like he has walked from the mountains. How does he look so fresh?" Musashi only smiled. He did not tell them the secret. Not yet. But inside, he repeated the words, "Breathe like a river." Hours later, as the sun began to set, Musashi sat beneath a tree. He closed his eyes and began the river breath again. This time, something deeper happened. He felt the tension leave his body. He felt his heart be quiet. He felt his muscles rest. And then he felt something unexpected, a rising energy, not a sudden shock, not excitement, but a quiet, steady, powerful energy building inside him, the kind of energy that lasts. He remembered the old woman's final line of the first lesson. When your breath becomes calm, your mind becomes clear. And when your mind becomes clear, nothing can stop your energy from returning. Musashi opened his eyes. The sky was turning orange. He felt ready for anything. The narrator concludes, Musashi had taken the first step toward endless energy. He learned that power does not come from force. It comes from breath. Calm breath, deep breath, river breath. But he still had more to learn, because breath was only the beginning. After a full day of practicing the river breath, Musashi reached an old village just before nightfall. The sky was turning gold and purple. Children ran through the streets, and the smell of warm food drifted from every small house. Musashi felt something he had not felt in a long time: peace. But he was not here to rest. He was here to continue learning the old woman's method. The narrator speaks softly. He learned the first lesson: breathe like a river. Now came the second lesson, a lesson that looked small, but changed everything. As he walked through the village, he noticed something unusual. The villagers moved with a calm rhythm. Their steps were slow but steady. Their faces were relaxed. Nobody looked tired or stressed. Even the workers carrying heavy wood looked peaceful. Musashi stopped near the village well. A young woman was cleaning a wooden bowl. She washed it slowly, gently, as if the simple act had meaning. When she finished, she smiled and said, "A small ritual keeps the mind fresh." Musashi felt a spark. A memory from the old woman returned. Before he left her house, she had said, "Your life collapses, not from one big mistake, but from many small storms. Use small rituals to stop the storm before it grows." At that time, Musashi did not fully understand. But now, watching the villagers, he finally saw what she meant. Rituals, tiny actions, simple steps, moments of stillness. The young woman offered him a cup of warm tea. Musashi accepted it and sat beside the well. She poured slowly, carefully, with intention. Every movement she made felt peaceful. Musashi asked, "Why do you do everything so slowly?" The woman smiled. "When I move slowly, I stay present. And when I stay present, I stay calm. My energy does not break." Her words went straight to his heart. He realized something important. Fatigue does not always come from hard work. Sometimes it comes from rushing, from jumping between tasks, from never giving your mind a moment to breathe. This was the second lesson. The narrator explains, rituals are tiny pauses, powerful pauses. They return your mind to the present, and when your mind returns, your energy returns too. The old woman had shown Musashi 3 types of rituals. 1. A beginning ritual. 2. A transition ritual. 3. A closing ritual. He remembered them clearly now. 1. The beginning ritual before starting anything important, a fight, a journey, a task. The old woman had taught him to pause for 2 breaths. Just 2 breaths. Nothing more. Inhale like the river arrives, she had said. Exhale like the river leaves. These 2 breaths told the mind, focus, be here, start fresh. As Musashi sat near the well, he tried it. 2 simple breaths. Immediately, his thoughts stopped wandering. His focus sharpened. A small ritual, but a powerful one. 2. The transition ritual. This ritual was even more important. Every time Musashi changed from one activity to another, she taught him to take 1 small action, something simple, something physical, something calm that could be sipping tea, washing hands, closing his eyes for 10 seconds, setting down his sword, gently stretching his fingers, touching the ground. Anything simple, anything grounding, anything that creates a small moment of reset. The narrator says, in life, people lose energy not because they work too much, but because they switch tasks too fast. Their mind breaks again and again, like a rope pulled in every direction. But rituals protect the mind. Musashi tested this idea as he walked through the village. He stopped between actions. He washed his hands before talking to someone. He closed his eyes before entering a house. He took a single, long breath before answering a question. Every time he performed one of these tiny actions, he felt his energy return, piece by piece. Point 3. The closing ritual at the end of a task or day. The old woman taught him to give thanks silently, just 1 sentence inside his mind. This task is done. I let it go. This was not gratitude for others, it was a ritual for himself. A way to release stress. A way to clear mental space. The narrator continues, when you finish one task but keep thinking about it, you carry a heavy weight. When you release it with a simple ritual, your mind becomes light again. The moment Musashi finally understood later, that evening, Musashi watched an old man sweeping the village path. Every time he finished sweeping one section, the man paused, took a breath, and looked at the sky. Musashi walked over. "Why do you pause after every part of the road?" he asked. The old man smiled kindly. "If I do it all at once, I become tired. But if I pause often, my energy grows instead of falling." Musashi felt a shock inside his mind. This was the meaning of the second lesson. Small rituals stop the body from drowning in tiredness. Small rituals restart the mind again and again. Small rituals protect energy. He remembered the old woman's words. Do not wait for burnout. Prevent it with little doors of rest. These doors were the rituals. A test of the lesson night came slowly. The moon rose above the village, glowing bright and silver. Musashi stood in the center of the village square. He could feel his energy rising again, but he wanted to test it. He found a large wooden log and lifted it onto his shoulders, a weight that would normally drain him fast. As he carried it across the square, he felt his breath deepen. He placed the log down, performed a small ritual, just washed his hands with cool water. The transition ritual. Then he lifted the log again. He carried it farther and farther. Something unexpected happened. He did not feel tired. Instead, he felt stronger, the narrator says. That night, Musashi understood the secret power of small rituals. They were not decoration. They were medicine. The lesson becomes his habit before leaving the village the next morning. Musashi created 3 personal rituals for himself. A. Beginning ritual. 2. River breaths before every task. A transition ritual. Washing his hands every time he changed activity. A closing ritual. 1 silent sentence of release. He felt ready for the next step of the journey. As he walked out of the village, he whispered, "Breath gives me energy. Rituals protected." But the old woman's method was not complete yet. One more lesson remained, a lesson deeper than breath, deeper than ritual, a lesson about direction, about purpose. The morning after leaving the peaceful village, Musashi walked along a quiet path that led toward the mountains. The air was crisp. Birds called from the trees. His steps were steady. His breath flowed like the river. His mind felt clean because of the small rituals he now used every day. But something was missing. He felt stronger. Yes. He felt calmer. Yes. But deep inside, strange emptiness remained. It was a feeling he did not understand yet. The narrator speaks slowly. He had breath. He had rituals. But he did not have direction. And without direction, even strong energy has no place to go. Musashi walked for hours, thinking about this. He remembered the old woman's voice in his mind. Your third lesson, she had said, is the hardest, but it is also the one that creates endless energy. It is the lesson of purpose. At the time, he had ignored those words. He thought strength came only from discipline and training. But now, as he walked alone through the mountains, he felt the truth of her warning. Breath gives energy. Rituals protect energy. But purpose gives that energy meaning. Without purpose, energy fades. Without purpose, life becomes heavy. Without purpose, even a warrior becomes lost. Musashi stopped walking. He stood at the edge of a cliff, looking down at the wide valley below. The wind rushed past him, pulling at his clothes. He felt small in a giant world around him, and for the first time in a long time, he asked himself the question the old woman wanted him to face. Why do I rise each morning? At first, he tried to answer with pride, to become the greatest swordsman. No, that felt empty, to win every duel. That felt childish, to prove my strength. That felt foolish. His heart answered none of these. He sat on a rock and closed his eyes. He placed his hand on his stomach and breathed deeply, like the river. Slowly, a memory rose from the depths of his past, something he had forgotten. It was a memory of a young Musashi, sitting beside his father. His father had told him, strength is not for showing. Strength is for guiding others. Musashi opened his eyes. That memory felt warm, like fire. A fire he had once carried, but had lost. The The narrator explains, and there, on the mountain, he realized something important. Becoming the strongest was not his purpose. His purpose was much bigger, much older, much deeper. Musashi stood up slowly. He let the wind wash over him. His real purpose was simple: to walk through the world with presence, to help others rise, to bring clarity, not fear, to leave light behind, not shadows. This purpose felt soft, yet powerful, calm, yet unbreakable, not loud, but strong. As soon as he accepted it, something shifted inside him. His breath deepened, his heart steadied, his energy rose quiet but powerful. The narrator continues, when a person finds their purpose, their body obeys, their mind opens, their spirit wakes. Purpose becomes fuel, clean fuel, endless fuel. Musashi continued walking, but now everything felt different. The path looked brighter. His steps felt lighter. Even the mountain air felt warmer. Hours later, he reached a small village at the base of the mountain. The villagers were struggling to rebuild a broken bridge. The wood was heavy, the ropes were old, and the people were tired. Before discovering his purpose, Musashi would have walked past them. He would have continued his journey alone, chasing strength. But today, he stopped. He walked toward the villagers and asked, "Do you need help?" The villagers looked at him with surprise. They did not know who he was. He looked like a traveler, dusty and tired, but something in his face showed calm and steady strength. An old man stepped forward and said, "We'll be grateful for any help you can offer." Musashi nodded. He placed his hand on his stomach, took 2 river breaths, the beginning ritual, and lifted a heavy beam onto his shoulders. The villagers gasped. The beam was large enough that 3 men struggled to move it, but Musashi lifted it with calm ease, not because he was stronger than them, but because he had found his purpose. The narrator explains, with purpose, the mind does not complain, the body does not resist, the heart does not grow tired. Purpose turns work into service, and service into energy. For hours, he helped the villagers. He carried wood. He tied ropes. He guided people. He worked until the sun began to set, but he did not feel tired, not even for a moment. Every time he finished a task, he performed a tiny ritual, washing his hands, stretching his fingers, or breathing slowly before starting the next job. And each time, his purpose pulled him forward like a quiet, burning flame dot. When evening came, the bridge was complete. The villagers lit lanterns and gathered around Musashi to thank him. A small child walked up to him and asked, "Why did you help us?" Musashi bent down to meet the child's eyes. "Because it is my path," he said gently, "my purpose." The villagers smiled with gratitude. But Musashi felt something even stronger inside himself, a deep peace, a deep strength, a deep energy, the kind of energy he had searched for his whole life. As he left the village that night, he whispered to the sky, "Purpose is a fire that does not burn out." The narrator concludes, he now understood the 3rd lesson. Purpose is the quiet fire inside humans. When purpose guides the steps, energy never disappears. Breath gives life. Rituals protect life. But purpose gives life meaning. Musashi walked into the darkness with a strong heart, but he still had to master one more part of the method, a final piece that brought everything together, a method so simple, yet so powerful that it would change him forever. Night covered the mountains like a dark blanket when Musashi finally stopped walking. The sky was full of stars, bright and silent. A cold breeze touched his skin, but he did not shiver. Inside him, there was a new warmth, a calm fire built from breath, small rituals, and purpose. But he knew one thing was still missing. The old woman had given him 3 words, 3 simple words that held the complete secret. 3 words he still did not fully understand. He sat on a flat stone near a quiet stream. The moonlight reflected in the water like silver paint. He took a long, slow breath, letting the night fill his lungs. The sound of the river reminded him of her voice, soft and wise. He whispered her words inside his mind. Breathe, reset, aim. For days, he had used these steps separately. Breath during walking, rituals during work, purpose during service. But tonight, under the moon, he realized something new. These three were not meant to be separate. They were meant to become one single loop, a cycle, a rhythm, a repeating pattern that refreshes energy again and again without ending. The narrator speaks slowly, and at last, Musashi understood the final lesson. The three words were not instructions. They were a circle, a loop, a complete method. Breathe, reset, aim. The energy loop. Musashi looked at the stream. The water flowed. It never rushed. It never stopped. It moved in a constant natural loop. That was the moment the truth struck him. If he combined breath, rituals, and purpose in the correct order, he could create a river inside himself. A river of energy that never runs dry. He closed his eyes and began the loop. Step 1. Breathe. Musashi placed a hand on his stomach and inhaled slowly. 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out. Just like the river, he felt his thoughts clear. He felt his body loosen. He felt his mind return home. Breath was the beginning. The quiet opening of the gate, the narrator explains. Breath gives you a new start. It wipes away the noise. It tells the heart, be calm. Without step 1, nothing can begin. Musashi breathed until the tension left every part of his body. Step 2, reset. When he opened his eyes, he performed a small ritual, something simple, something grounding. He dipped his hands in the cold stream. The water shocked him for a moment, then refreshed him completely. This was his reset ritual. It marked a shift. The last moment ends here. A new moment begins. The narrator continues. A ritual, even a small one, resets the mind. It cuts the rope that ties you to stress. It creates a clean space inside you. Musashi felt that clean space appear wide and bright. Step 3. Aim. Then he remembered his purpose. Not glory, not victory, not pride, but presence, service, clarity, guiding others. He whispered, my next action will serve my purpose. At that moment, his mind pointed forward like an arrow that knows its target. The narrator says, purpose gives energy direction. Without purpose, power scatters. With purpose, power becomes a straight line. Musashi felt his energy rise, steady and warm, like a flame protected from the wind. And then, he repeated the loop. Breathe, reset, aim. 3 steps, 3 breaths, 3 moments. But something amazing happened. The more he repeated the loop, the more energy he felt. It did not drop. It did not fade. It did not leak away. With every round of the loop, it grew. The narrator speaks with emotion. Musashi had found the secret. Endless energy did not come from strength. It came from rhythm. A simple rhythm repeated again and again. He practiced the loop through the night. By dawn, he felt stronger than he had felt in years. And as the sun rose, something else appeared before him. A traveler. The test arrives. A young man stumbled onto the path, exhausted, wounded, barely able to walk. His face was pale. His breath was broken. He dropped to the ground as soon as he saw Musashi. Help me, the man whispered. Musashi hurried to him, touching his shoulder. What happened? He asked. I have walked for 2 days without rest, the young man said. I feel empty, like my body is dying. Musashi understood. This man was where he had been, lost, tired, broken inside. He looked into the man's eyes and said gently, I will teach you something. He guided the man to sit. He told him to place a hand on his stomach. He taught him the river breath. Slow, calm, steady. The man's breath softened. His shaking stopped. Then Musashi picked up a small stone and placed it in the man's hands. "This is your reset," he said. "Hold it for just 10 seconds, then place it down." The man did it. A small ritual. A small reset. Finally, Musashi asked, "What is one reason you want to stand again?" "One small purpose." The man thought for a moment. Then he said, "I want to reach my mother. She is waiting." "That is your aim," Musashi answered. "That is your direction." He guided the young man through the loop again. Breathe. Reset. Aim. Something changed in the man's face. His energy rose. His body awakened. His eyes brightened. He stood, slowly at first, then firmly. Musashi smiled. The method worked, not only for him, but for anyone. The narrator says, this was the final proof. Energy was not a gift. It was a method, a loop anyone could learn. Musashi's final understanding before the young man left. He bowed deeply. "You saved me," he said. Musashi shook his head. "I did not save you. I only reminded you of yourself." The narrator concludes, and that was Musashi's final lesson. Energy does not come from outside. It grows inside you when you breathe, when you reset, when you aim. This is the energy loop. Simple, powerful, endless. Musashi looked at the rising sun with calm eyes and a steady heart. He whispered the 3 words one last time. Breathe, reset, aim. And then he walked forward light, strong, and full of endless energy.